This is Ed Stewart. Ed is the curator at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. He knows a thing or two about real spaceships. But what does he know about the fictional variety and how they measure up to the real thing? This is Curator Reacts.
So welcome to Curator Reacts. Today is a very special edition of Curator Reacts. I wanted to introduce you to astronaut Chris Sembrowski from Inspiration 4 flight. Chris, if you would, tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I have always loved all things space. Obviously, I love space even more now having been there. I think we should all have a chance to go there, and I think this is an exciting thing to be here to talk about how we've seen it in the arts.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, as we send more people to space, we're sending more humanity to space, right? And so maybe we can make it look a little bit like sci-fi?
I hope so. Maybe not so much like today's film.
Maybe not.
We're going to be talking about the ships of Independence Day. I love the city destroyers because your first kind of intro with them is very 1950s saucer.
Absolutely.
Right? It very much has that vibe, so.
Yeah, and yet seeing this giant shadow come over the city at the moment, I can only imagine what it's like for ants to see someone hover over their foot on their anthill for a moment. Yeah.
I mean, a very cool start to the film for sure, because it sets the tone of what in the world is happening, what are we in for, how is this going to go, and how's it going to turn out?
Right, and how have we not connected with something or noticed something like this?
Right.
Sailing through the solar system or from millions of miles away at this point.
And of course, I think they ended up calling them city destroyers because that's the kind of iconic scene that you get where it's hovering over and then it drops the big beam and the whole thing just shatters and explodes. And they do that in several cities, if I remember correctly.
Right, yeah. I don't know how I feel about seeing a giant laser beam blowing up, New York City all in one swoop.
Yeah, definitely not a good look for the human race on this one.
Not so much at all.
You see them coming in atmosphere, and of course there's no re-entry heat or anything like that. You don't get the plasma glow, really.
Yeah, they only give you clouds. They give you like this mist coming through, and then all of a sudden, ship reveals itself. But as we've all seen now that you've got this amazing glow of plasma that we're just dying to see off of these ships coming through our atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you went through re-entry on your mission, were you able to see the plasma glow through the windows and everything, or was that?
It was gorgeous. Yeah, I was able to peek through my toes and see some of the flashes of white, pink and orange blaze by the window until it, hazed over in the last couple of minutes coming through the atmosphere. But yeah, it was a very dynamic time, and starting to hear the air whoosh past the spacecraft as you get lower in the atmosphere.
Very cool. Oh, the F-18, the Hornets. Now, those are great aircraft. They're super maneuverable, a great sort of air-to-air, air-to-surface kind of attack aircraft. And they're kind of a twin-engine, fixed-wing format, especially for the time period that we're talking about in the mid-90s. It's a great air superiority fighter used by the U.S. and other kind of friendly forces.
It's powerful, right? Yeah. It's absolutely powerful. Twin engines, they're going to get you somewhere fast.
Yes.
And they're going to keep up really well with anything that's under Mach 1 easily.
Yeah.
And then anything that's trying to get away, they'll catch up.
While it's an incredibly capable aircraft, I struggle to see how it would be able to keep up with something like the fighters that you see coming out of the alien ships, because they're just so maneuverable. They so
almost
fast.
look like the F-35s or F-22s of today almost.
A little bit, yeah. They've got that sort of kind of almost diamond shape to them, right? Mm-hmm. And they have a little bit of a kind of an organic look as well, which I think kind of plays into later we find out that they're sort of mechanical and biological technologies that they use together.
But man, I mean, just seeing the maneuvers in the movie that some of these spaceships are doing, and I can only imagine the nightmare that air traffic control is having with this cloud of aircraft and spacecraft all in the same space.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It seems like it would be a real stretch for an F-18 or even like an F-35 today to be able to keep up with something like that, because some of the maneuvers you see them doing are incredibly high G.
But with that, when we learn later about their biomechanical suits,
welcome to Earth.
It makes you think about the G suits that we have now and how they would have had to evolve so that now you're wearing a head-to-toe kind of
Yeah.
spacesuit that's connected to you in ways that we haven't really imagined yet.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be like a perfectly form-fitted, able to compensate for just about any condition kind of suit. Although speaking of suits, if you're here, you should check out the suit that we have on display in our atrium, which happens to have been worn by this gentleman.
Well, it's one of my favorites, obviously. So yeah, it's always nice to come back to be able to visit the suit you wore in space here at the museum.
Come on.
So I love the idea of force field technology.
I think we need some force field technology in
Absolutely.
LEO right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that once upon a time, NASA was doing some research into electromagnetic shielding, but it was really more focused on being able to provide shielding for crews from radiation. So to my understanding of it, really that technology is kind of really more focused on that, keeping out, gamma rays and X-rays and all those sort of high energy particles that...
Which I would think they would be able to keep out like photon torpedoes and things like that much easier with that technology.
Right.
But something physical
Yeah.
is harder.
Yeah, it seems to be like there's no way that I'm aware of yet anyways that you can stop a projectile with sort of an EM shield along those lines, which you see a lot in the movies.
The amount of energy and the amount of force that it would take to deflect something would probably tear apart your own spacecraft at this point.
Exactly. And what kind of heat are you generating
Yeah.
because of the high energy demands and all these sorts of things? Just
It's something else.
very cool. No real world equivalent yet, for sure.
Yeah.
So, once we get fusion, it'll be fine. Yeah, the mothership.
Why do they always have a top and a bottom in the movies, by the way? Why?
Yeah.
So we're looking
Yeah.
at this, and it's always oriented in like a mushroom shape where the dome's on top and then the tentacles are below.
Yeah. I think in this case, it might hint a little bit kind of towards that biological technology that they use, because they are sort of...
Are they trying to root down through the atmosphere in a visual sense?
Which would make a lot of sense, especially since they're, if I remember right, they're resource extractors. They're locusts, right? And so they kind of point themselves towards their target, and then they want to pull up whatever materials and stuff that they want to consume. It kind of gives a little bit of that like almost jellyfish kind of feel too, where it kind of, you've got the tentacles that hang down, can be kind of menacing for sure. Now the mothership, of course, I thought was really interesting because you get sort of a huge sense of scale.
And it's dimly lit on the inside.
Right.
And so the adversaries in most of these sci-fi movies feel like they like darkness.
Right.
And they're coming to Earth, and it's a very bright planet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely feel like this is a little bit of like, you get that mishmash of the 50s saucer films.
Yeah.
But then when you start seeing the interiors of the craft, it very much has a Ridley Scott kind of alien, everything's damp and kind of shiny and oppressive feeling. So
That dark green color seems synonymous with like
Yeah.
the Borg or any other
Yep.
other deep space missions.
absolutely. It definitely has that sort of, I'm going into a deep dark cave menacing kind of feel, right? This kind of gives you your first hint at the technology. You don't see like big thrusters, you don't see anything like that. And there's really no indication of what kind of propulsion technology they're using or anything like that. So,
Yeah, there's no houses losing their roofs yet,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, they're just managing to hover there using some other
Right.
force yet to be discovered. Maybe that whole vibration part where they come over that landing site on the moon is a hint as to what that new technology is, that it's interacting with
It
the
could
lunar
be.
surface itself.
Yeah, I want to say too, I remember some lunar surface research item that talks about sometimes the lunar dust can get charged and can actually lift up off the surface under certain conditions. So maybe it's some sort of magnetic field interaction with that or something along those lines.
But we know it's definitely not the wind.
We know it's definitely not the wind. And it can't be sound because there's not enough medium there to transmit sound from the ship to the lunar surface. So it would have to be something pretty exotic. Now, of course, the way that they end up taking out the mothership, I thought was kind of interesting. They upload a computer virus.
How did you do that?
I gave it a cold. I gave it a virus. Computer virus.
I thought that was kind of a fun riff, again, kind of talking about some old other sci-fi touchstones. It's a little bit of a riff on War of the Worlds, where they catch cold as a virus, right? So you just kind of did a modern day equivalent. I don't know. What's your take on that? Do you see that as a plausible kind of concept?
Absolutely. I think just as we saw settlers come to the New World and smallpox took over, I can imagine doing the same thing as we are taking our computer technology to a technologically advanced civilization that maybe they haven't seen or experienced something like that before. And so, absolutely, upload a bug, a virus.
Right.
And you don't have time to invent penicillin of the digital kind.
Right, because it moves so quickly.
And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Well, one, I think he absolutely made the same mistake that we all do the first time we get up on stage and just cause the feedback of a microphone. That's like given. I think it also touches on a lot of different things that anyone who's been up at that altitude and looks back at Earth and describes for themselves and to other people what that experience was like in terms of what that overview effect that, that Frank White has termed as this feeling that realizes that we're all in Spaceship Earth together and that we are here in a place that we should work together, and realizing this for the first time when aliens attack feels a little late. I think what it also says is that these aliens had a very narrow view of the universe, because I think there's a lot more out there to be explored and to use once we're up in space than going to Earth.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for participating with me today in our Curator Reacts video, and maybe you can join us again sometime.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
And you guys, of course, make sure you come back and look for our episodes of Curator Reacts here on the channel, and give us a like down below.